Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. The landlord in our first story is reaping what he had sowed. He didn't send out the renewals in a timely fashion, so he screwed himself over on that. He only has himself to blame. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. I didn't tell my landlord I bought a house. I'd been renting from a landlord for a few years, and he was a pretty typical landlord. Take the rent, do as few repairs as cheap as possible, etc. I'm sure you know the drill. He also was kind of late on stuff, like every year the lease says renewal should be sent out 2 months before the end of the lease to give the option, and every year he procrastinates until the last week or two of the lease. I was looking to buy my first house, and I closed on one 4 months before my lease was up, but I kept some overlap so I could live in the apartment while repairing the house. 2 months before the lease was up, like usual, my landlord forgot to send out the renewals. I thought of telling him I wouldn't be renewing, then I remembered that my neighbors who moved had trouble with them bringing way too many potential tenants to tour. Nobody wanted the apartment because the online listing was a bait and switch, so people would see something looking in good repair, then come to tour and see it was crap, and nobody wanted to sign the lease, so he just kept bringing more and more people instead of making an honest listing at an honest price. So I didn't say anything. I just kept fixing up the house and moving my stuff. Then 1 week before my lease expired, my landlord texted me the renewal. I actually didn't see it because I had my phone on Do Not Disturb, but the next morning he kept texting wanting my signed renewal. I told him I didn't plan on renewing, and he got really angry, demanding to know what apartment I was moving to next. I got the impression he wanted to call my next landlord to complain about me. Anyway, I told him I was moving back in with my parents. I didn't want to tell him about the house because of the temper he was getting with me. He started showing the apartment right away, but I'd already finished moving out, so it didn't bother me. But when I stopped by to turn in my keys and ask for my security deposit, he got angry, saying that I had some nerve asking for $1,300 when I just screwed him out of a month's rent by not giving notice. I told him that the security deposit was for damages, and if he wanted to withhold it, he would have to send over an itemized list of damages and receipts for repairs. He gave me the security deposit back, but yelled at me that he took care of his tenants and I was selfish for leaving without notice. I just left, but I guess I'm feeling kind of conflicted. On one hand, it's literally his job, his only job, to handle leases and find out who's renewing. And if he forgot, that's not really my problem. But I also know I knew I was leaving for the better part of a year, and I told him with less than a week. And our second story. Evening delivery drivers love to comply. So I'm a 28-year-old male, and my job is to deliver milk and goods overnight as people sleep. I've been doing this job for close to a year and have always done my deliveries the same. However, recently for one night, I had 3 homes that were suddenly in a bad mood and tried to give me some trouble. You know, as people do. So firstly, I was heading to an area with 3 homes for delivery, which I just run on their driveways because why wouldn't I? Normally it's quiet, but today I had a black BMW slowly moving ahead of me, going the same way into the same street. We both parked up and I grabbed the deliveries and ran to each door. Made the first delivery, then ran across the driveway to get to the house next to it, or I'd need to run around a massive bush, so I go across the drive, deliver, and run back. Remember that black BMW? Well, a woman left it and barked at me for running over her driveway, which, okay, I get, but she shouted, late at night, I should add, "Don't run across my driveway," then stormed off. I simply said, okay, while continuing to deliver to the last house. Well, her driveway has a very small lawn around it. Now I run over that. She's looked at me a few times from her window, but hasn't said a word. I mean, I did comply. I didn't run on her driveway. Second one was an area with 2 homes for delivery, 3 homes with 1 and 3 needing a delivery, so I park up near house 2 so I can run to 1 and 3. However, house 2 has a tiny patch of grass that leads to 3. I've been running over this for a year, but it's so small that 1 foot is all that lands on it. But today, the owner poked his head out and again, at night, shouted to, "Do not step on my lawn!" Like before, I said, sure, as I continued to run, because if I stop to interact, then I know they'll go on and on. Next time I went there, there he was watching, so I did what he said. I ran as per usual and jumped over the grass, delivered, then ran and jumped over it again, got in the van and drove off. I mean, I complied, right? Edit. The small patch of lawn is not well kept. It's dying and covered in urine patches or dug holes. Last one of the night was a really old lady, just a single delivery, but to her house. She has a stone walkway with no other way to get to the door, but for some reason was really annoyed because I shifted too many stones with my massive feet and boots. I'm a size 12, UK size, wearing steel-capped construction boots because a crate of milk falling on your feet will deal some nasty damage. So instead I just jumped onto her wall, walked across it, dropped off her milk, and off I went. I'm 6'4", so this tiny wall was effortless to step on. She just looked at me, said nothing but huff, and walked in with her milk. Another happy customer. Funnily enough, these are the only issues I've ever had in 1 year. I guess the world decided to change it up a bit. Leave it out in the street. Sorry, ma'am, can't use the driveway, can't use your lawn, can't step on the stones. And our next story. Homeboy doesn't like my customer service. Greetings. This is a story of graveyard shift at the gas station. Thursday night, a regular customer who's been coming in for months came in to buy his regular thing of a pack of Marlboro black cigarettes. He always buys those cigarettes. Sometimes he also gets a soda. Sometimes he gets a lighter, but it's always those cigarettes that he buys. But this Thursday, he angrily marches up to the counter and starts swearing at me words that I can't post here. But censoring out the profanity, he says, "Hey, you've been giving me attitude and I don't like that. Did you shut off my gas the other night?" The one word I got in edgewise during this whole exchange was yes. Homie continued his ranting and cursing, saying that wasn't right and he was going to report me to corporate because I was a bleep bleep bleep, gave bad customer service, and he stomped out. What happened? Flashback to late Monday night, homie came to the teller window and asked for his Marlboro cigarettes as per usual and wanted to pay for some gas. Slipping two $20 bills into the drawer, he said that he wanted the cigs and $20 at pump number 10 too. Now, unfortunately, due to the thick safety glass, all I heard was that he wanted gas at the pump, so I rang up the cigarettes, then rang up the remainder of his $40, about $30 to pump number 10. As I gave homie his cigarettes through the window drawer, he asked, "Where's my change?" Realizing my error, I turned back to the register and tried to void the transaction before the pump turned on. That managed to stop the signal, but also caused the old register to freeze up. A few tries to get it unfrozen failed, and I had to tell homie that all we could do was wait for the register to un-F itself. Not happy because he had things to do, homie replied that he'd go pump his gas and come back and get his change in a minute. Before I could explain, homie then took off to find out that the pump wasn't going to work for himself. Homie returned pissed off now and just wanted his money back for the gas, saying he'd go across the street. He'd wanted $20 in gas, so I gave him back one of his $20 bills. "Where's my change?" he demanded again. So again, I tried to explain that I couldn't get change out of the register because it was frozen. Now homie was demanding all of his money back. "If you want it all back, then give me back the cigarettes, okay?" was my reasonable reply. He was not okay with that, but wanted his money, so tossed the cigs in the drawer, to which I returned his remaining $20. Off homie stormed back to his car, and of course that's when the register came back to life. Ping went the register, and ping went pump number 10, which had finally been activated. What to my wondering eyes did homie do? Well, he tried to take the gas. He had the fueling nozzle in his hand and was about to put it in his car, and beep, I turned off his gas pump. Yup, homie may not have liked my customer service, but I was not going to give him free gasoline. And our last story. HOA president stated that he has a right to be on my property anytime he wants to. So I'm in a long-running dispute with my HOA because they refuse to follow the CC&Rs plus bylaws. Anyway, they decided to take down some trees on HOA property behind the houses on our street and wanted access to the trees by coming across my property, and I refused until I had proof of insurance from the contractor. The HOA said that the contractor gave them a certificate of insurance, COI, and they provided one from the HOA to me. Problem is that the tree removal company provided a COI that stated information only in the certificate holder box, which means that maybe they have insurance, but if something happens on someone's property that they're not liable. Neat little trick, and the HOA idiots fell for it. I still refused work until I have a valid COI naming me as the certificate holder from the tree company. So the HOA president comes onto my driveway and starts to argue with me, and I told him to leave my property. He refused, stating that he has a right to be on my property anytime he wants to. Told him to leave again and that he's trespassing, and he again refuses and says I should call the state police. He finally leaves and I call the SP. They went to see him and let him know that CC&Rs plus bylaws do not supersede state and federal protections for private property protection. Told the SOB that if I call them again, he'll be arrested and taken to jail. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.